Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Ask a Stoic. Today's question is, how can I begin to apply Stoicism to my everyday life? We read in Epictetus's Enchiridion that there is something called the Stoic Dichotomy of Control, that things are either up to us or not up to us. And this is a harsh division. It's a lens we can use to view basically everything in the world. The things which are up to us are the things that we should base our happiness on. They're our intentions, our judgments, our reactions, and our internal state. The things which are not up to us is literally everything else. Body, property, wealth, title, political power, all of these things which most folks pin their happiness on is susceptible to the twists of fate or to the actions of other people. It's kind of a silly proposition to base something as core as how we feel about ourselves, our happiness, on something that's outside of our control. So what we do is we focus our control on those things which are up to us, and everything else we treat as an indifferent. This often gets a little bit of a murky area for people who are new to Stoicism, because there's something called preferred and dispreferred indifference. But that preference is not based on mere proclivity. I happen to like Dr. Pepper instead of Pepsi. That's just a sensory input. But we're talking about preference for external things. It's preference that it contributes to our own well-being, to our virtue. If a certain environment is more conducive for us to make virtuous decisions, we can reasonably prefer it over something which will very likely take us away from virtue. For instance, someone might prefer simple clothes, or a rough bed, or minimalist living as a way to focus their attention on virtue. So for this instance, it's preferable to live in a slightly austere environment than it is to live with total opulence. However, whether the wealth is high or low, wealth is still an indifferent. We just might prefer one to the other if it helps us make virtuous choices. So we can begin to inculcate these practices into our daily life by monitoring our impressions, the things that are presented to us, our ruling faculty, by our body and our senses. We get impressions all the time. Temperature, things people say to us, any kind of input that comes from the body and comes to the mind is an impression, and we need to weigh them actively. Most of the time we make decisions either on the fly or almost at an unconscious level. We're not actually processing the information. So when we begin to process the impressions, we can focus on those that are up to us. If someone is angry at me and yelling at me, I can't really control that. But what is up to me is how I respond to it. I could yell back at him and show him how wrong he is and how angry he is, or I can realize that what's up to me is how I respond. And what I can do is try to behave rationally, virtuously, and ethically, even in the face of these very harsh impressions. So that's the very first step, to begin to monitor our impressions and note that which is up to us and that which is not. Hope that helps answer your question, and fate permitting, I'll see you next time. Thanks.